Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv.
Okay, how are you? It's nice to see you, and I'm looking forward to talking about all this fascinating stuff and everything you've been researching and are teaching. So it's really great.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. Yeah, I'm up to about 250 interviews a year now. It's really taken off.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the 27th of April 2024, and our special guest today is a Canadian truth researcher, health and wellness coach, self-sabotaging expert and teacher who is sabotaging your mind control programming only to teach you how to mind control your own brain in a new way, a good way, with new constructive patterns in order to make yourself become successful. That and a lot more with Jason Christoff. Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and welcome to our viewers on Age of Truth TV. Please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. We have a sensational, fantastic, and very loaded and informative show for you today. And there's so much to learn with our very special guest, who is a self-sabotaging expert who will sabotage your mind control programming only in order for you to create new patterns and to teach you how to mind control your own brain. He has an incredible story, and he's also aware of the dark, occult, sinister forces working behind the scenes. So now I will say good morning to our very special guest joining us from Mexico, another great JC. Not Johnny Cash or Joan Collins or Jesus Christ even, but Jason Christoff. It's wonderful to have you on the show today. How are you, Jason?
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to your audience today.
It's so great. You've been on a really fascinating path. And before we go into mind control, collective mind control, individual mind control, how you can reprogram yourself, and you're teaching people this through your courses and your lectures and individual talks and whatever you do, and you're going to tell us all about that. Please, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about your journey, who you are, and what led you on this path.
Well, I used to be a high-end exercise and nutrition coach, and it wasn't just one of these degrees or certifications that you can get anywhere. I attended the Czech Institute at CHEK in California, and this is the top health institute in the entire world. If anybody wants to get healthy, know everything they need to about what it means to live a healthy lifestyle, this is the spot. So I got qualified to run people through exercise and diet regimes, and then I would enact those regimes. People would pay me thousands of dollars because I got the certification from this amazing institute. And what I found is that, let's say we had a man that needed to lose 30 pounds, or maybe a lady that needed to lose 30 pounds. They were really into it until they would lose about 8 pounds, and then the same thing would keep happening. They would run in the other direction, like their goal was a werewolf. At first, they were really into their goal and into the habits that help them achieve their goal. But as they approached their goal, something weird, it was like an invisible glass ceiling or glass wall. They would keep just running into that 8 pound mark, maybe the 10 pound, and then they would scurry back to the ice cream shop or the fast food restaurant or all the habits that help them put on that 30 pounds. So it became so prolific and so frequent. I phoned the Institute and said, I don't know if anybody else is seeing this, but these people are sort of deathly afraid to become better almost on any level, because once your health is set, other betterments come your way. I said, they're really afraid to be better for some weird reason. Have you seen this? And they said, oh, yes, we see it all the time. They have mind viruses. They're under mind control. There's something called the subconscious mind that is sort of making the betterment adverse inside their nervous system, sort of as they approach their goal. There's nervous feelings and there's more safety in their old habits. And I said, well, I wish you would have told me that when I was there. And they said, well, we do offer that, but you didn't go high enough in the certification. So I said, well, at least send me some books or some info, because if my clients are under mind control and it makes them afraid to be better people, I'd really like to learn about it. So they sent me all these publications and books, and I really started to grasp really well why they were afraid, because of the way we have a lot of protection mechanisms in the body. We can get into that in a second, but I tried to use the mind control tactics on my clients to break their old mind control. So I tried to use the knowledge I had to override their fear of success. And I tried to install new programming that would make them really excited to lose weight or make more money or just become better overall. And it worked. And I got put out of a job. They wouldn't need to pay me anymore. I didn't need to meet them at the fitness facility. I didn't need to write their diets or keep track of them or sort of whip them. They were all doing it all themselves. So because I was out of a job, I owned the fitness chain that I was operating in. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go online. I'm going to try and push this knowledge to maybe other coaches or other members of the general public. I became so busy, I actually had to open an institute where I taught this information to medical doctors, chiropractors, high-end health coaches, and even members of the general public that just wanted to reprogram themselves so they're not so afraid of being their best self. And then, it's really ballooned, not out of control. I'm definitely still in control because I control my own programming. But only in the last year alone, I spoke at the European Parliament on these topics in Brussels. I spoke at the Romanian Palace of the Parliament on the same topics. I spoke at a breakout room in CPAC in Washington, D.C. And then it was when I was in Washington, I was invited to the Kennedy Caucus Room in the U.S. Senate to testify in front of Senator Ron Johnson about these topics as well, because mind control is really, really a hot topic today in regards to some of the societal and cultural behaviors that are pretty obvious, when you pay attention to what's going on in the media. So this information now, because it's so impactful and so interesting, people are starting to really get a handle on it. And it's not such a unknown and mysterious thing at this point in time.
Wow. But they would actually allow you to speak at the Senate and in front of all of these government officials in Washington, but also in Europe and the European Parliament. But did they know all of the stuff that you're talking about and what you're exposing about this dark cult behind the scenes who's actually steering all of it through occult magic and have been using mind control techniques since the beginning of time, really, but since Operation Paperclip with the Nazis coming over in the 50s, and they refined the whole thing and have been using MK Ultra and also through Operation Mockingbird, of course, with television and media. I mean, you talk about all these things. Everything you're saying is tying into that knowledge you have about how the world works, huh?
Yeah, a lot of all the invitations were meant or, sent out purposely to kind of say, there was 50 speakers at each event. Only 22 speakers got to speak at the Senate. But other than that, there were 50 speakers, and we were all invited under the premise of, okay, we know there's some weird stuff going on here. There's a lot of illogical behavior on the part of the public, but also on part of the officials, people in power. Everybody's acting illogically and irrationally. And they would just basically say, can you explain it to us in, say, 15 or 20 minutes? And really, that's what I'm good at. I'll take 20 years of research and I can synthesize it down into a 15-minute talk where anybody listening can say, oh, wow, okay, now I get it. I understand why everybody sort of marched in the same direction, even though it was sort of off a cliff. And this is why it's so important, because if we don't understand how they are occult magicians. I mean, even though their tricks are in plain sight, the foundational principles are hidden. So we're trying to bring the occult above ground, make the subconscious conscious, so that everybody can kind of take a look at the play that's really been going on. The group we're talking about are very famous for getting us to do what they want, simply because they do not have the power to make us do it by force, which also sort of reflects their weakness, because if we don't comply, nothing happens.
Right. Normally, they don't allow people that are talking about controversial or delicate topics and things that if they are actually behind, they would not normally allow somebody like that to speak, especially about mind control, because if people are unaware of mind control and the power of it and how it's probably the most important topic to discuss once you are have awakened to what's going on in the world and how they use this incredible power tool for control and for frequency control also on the planet. It's mind control, behavior modification, and everything. They're using this. And so, I mean, it's quite remarkable that you were allowed to talk there, huh?
Well, I found it was a lot easier than anybody might expect. But, when you arrive at the EU Parliament, I mean, it didn't include all the parliamentarians. The group that are under mind control wanted really nothing to do with the talk, so they would exit and protest. But many even didn't want to be associated or seen listening, so they would go to their offices, and they all have the closed circuit TV so that they could listen in their offices without being branded with some of the derogatory mind control phrases like conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat wearer. And this was in the Romanian parliament. We were actually invited by the opposition, which represents at least 30 or 40% of the vote inside the country of Romania. So people are getting a bit more bold, and they're also understanding that if we don't come together and do something, the group will, obviously, they have the ability to make us do almost anything. And I would say anything. Mind control is that powerful. If anybody wants to know how powerful mind control can be, I'll even send them a made-for-Netflix special called The Push. It is made for Netflix by a mind control expert by the name of Darren Brown. And if you give me 5 minutes, I can explain it. It involves sort of one victim who doesn't understand that this is all one big planned drama. There are 70 actors involved. It's only a 2-hour drama. And basically, it's the use of the same mind control tactics that I talk about, that the government uses against the people, that the media use against the people. And this is more like stage entertainment. But the power of mind control is really displayed well there, because after the 2 hours, the reason it's called the push is the crescendo of the 2-hour operation involving one person who doesn't know what's going on, the victim, and 70 actors. It ends on the top of a 10-story building. And there's an old man, for whatever reason, you'll have to investigate yourself. I can provide this a copy I can provide a recording for anybody that wants one. But for whatever reason, there's an old man on the side of the building on the 10th floor, and his feet are hanging off the edge. And the group pressure is building and building and building. It's very well scripted. And for the victim and the person who doesn't know what's going on, for him to bond with the group and create the friendship and comply, the group is telling them, for whatever reason, it'll be explained, go push that old man off the side of the building and kill him. But don't worry. He's not really an old man. He's in makeup. He's a professional stuntman, and he's harnessed. But everybody knows that but the person that's getting pressured to push him off. This experiment was ran with the simple mind control tactics used against the public and media and government. This experiment was ran by Darren Brown and his crew 4 separate times for 2 hours each. 3 out of the 4 people murdered the man live on camera while they were being videotaped. As soon as the man was pushed off, again, he was harnessed, but the guy pushing them or the girl pushing them didn't do that. Both genders pushed the man off to his death. As soon as the man was pushed off, psychiatrists and psychologists and support staff and Darren Brown came out, showed the camera, said, calm down, you didn't really kill someone. We're here to support you. This is all part of a Netflix special on mind control. So this is how powerful mind control can be. And if we look back, what happened in 2020, we see similar effects. And very interesting subject, the extent to where you can bend the human's morality, bend the human's ethics, bend their sense of right or wrong simply by applying these, very simple mind control modalities to that person. And that was only over 2 hours, right, Lucas? This group has been working us like a baker kneading dough with the same mind control tactics since we all flew out of the womb.
That sounds absolutely outrageous, really. And also do, in a moment, take us through what is the collective mind control? I mean, how does that work? How is that used? And why is that so successful on the collective hive mind? And we see the success of that all over the world, really. But also talk about individual mind control and MK Ultra and through trauma and all of that, because there's a huge difference, or there's some kind of difference, certainly, because there's torture and other kinds of things involved in the more individual kind of mind control. And let me also ask you to that, what you just said. How can some people do that? Why would educated people do that and be able to do that? I would never do that. You would never do that. And people who are on that whatever frequency we're on and know about these things, we would never be, we would never do that or be indoctrinated or charmed in one way or the other to do this.
The collective mind control is based on this very loving part of our nervous system that we don't know is even inside us. So there's something called the subconscious mind, and it takes care of a lot of operations that we don't have a say in. And they're all loving and protective. Like if you got cut, Lucas, and you're looking at your cut, you can't really communicate. Something's going to heal it. It's going to close. I mean, you can't accelerate it. You can't slow it down either. It just happens automatically. It's like an invisible function. And you have many invisible functions that protect you, keep you safe, make you more secure. And they all run in this loving part of the brain called the subconscious, which means you don't have control of them. They operate outside your conscious awareness. There's another protective mechanism that's the base of the mind control applications thrown at us today. That subconscious wants you to be safe, but it knows there's safety in the crowd, safety in the bigger group, in the wolf pack, in the herd, in the cackle, in the flock. And it wants you to blend in with that group because it knows basically humans like other humans that act, talk, and think like they do. So the bigger group you bond with, the safer you are. It makes sense. And it has a very particular way of identifying where the bigger group is. It doesn't really even use its eyes. I mean, it uses its eyes, but it really tabulates over time what environment you're in and looks out for the repetitive content of that environment. And it writes it down. It'll like take a pen and paper and it'll write down the most repetitive themes or patterns, beliefs, ideas, and behaviors. And then once it has that eureka moment, says, hey, I got it. This is the most repetitive imagery or patterns in this environment. It makes you act them out invisibly to you, like completely unconscious. You will act them out in an attempt to bond with the bigger herd and sort of the say, do, and think what the majority is doing. So the people who rule us know this, and I'll give you a real example of this so that you understand how mind control works. Not everybody will sort of do what, and that repetitive content, Lucas, represents, the group pressure. The repetitive content, Lucas, is the group in this part of the mind. So there was a movie in 2001 called Gone in 60 Seconds with Angelina Jolie and Nicolas Cage. It was your typical Hollywood script. Nicolas Cage's brother had gotten in some rough water with a local thug. He owed the money to the thug, and the thug said, you're not paying up, I'm going to kill you. But I won't kill you because I heard your brother, Nicolas Cage, is a famous car thief. He got out of jail, and I'll kill you unless he steals 100 cars from me tonight and re-engages his purpose on this planet. So car theft was very repetitive, Lucas, inside that movie. And this part of the brain, the subconscious that tries to love us to safety by mimicking the repetitive content of our environment, it's been shown in all facets of research that it does not know the difference between real life, what's on the screen, and even what you imagine in your mind's eye. It's all the same. It's counting repetitive content in all three categories. So what that means is when you sit down in the movie theater, it thinks what's on the screen is real, and that's why you'll jump during a scary movie, your heart will beat faster, your palms will sweat. You have all of the physiological reactions that what's on the screen is real, including this part of the brain counting the repetitive content, trying to assess how to best bond with your new car theft tribe. And this part of the brain says, hey, we're in a car theft tribe. You want to flash the gang colors of the car theft tribe. Best way to fit in is steal some cars. Sounds ridiculous, sounds illogical. Everybody in psychology knows this is completely how most of your behavior is manufactured. And when this movie was released in 2001 in Burnaby, BC, Canada, car theft went up 70% in the first 4 days alone. Car theft went up in every municipality where the movie was released. And it's because the people who rule us have a very particular saying. What's on the screen at noon will be on the street at night. And whatever we want the people to engage in, we will simply flood it throughout their media. They will mimic it. The more we want the majority to mimic it, just the higher the repetitive content has to be. So this is, you can see it in something like Netflix. They had something called The Queen's Gambit. It was about a chess playing, pill popping, alcoholic female. Chess sales went up, I think it was 600 or 700%. on the opening week of this Netflix show about this chess player. So this social contagion is what mind control is all about. It's the people in media, and even the Greek god, her name is Medea, where we get our word media from. And she's sort of the dark god of deception and liaria and chaos and crisis, because we as
She killed her
humans,
own children.
and not too far off from what's going on today. This sort of thing, there's weird connections between the past and what's really going on today. So this is the basis of mind. So this is how the group is collectively controlled through the repetitive content on these. These are military devices, the cinema, the movie screen, the TV screen. These are documented military weapons, proven to control the behavior, thoughts, and perceptions of anybody that's sort of crazy enough to stare into its soft glow. And there's a great documentary called Pseudology, The Art of Lying, where there's many scientists and PhD and doctors interviewed about the dangers of watching TV and how it shuts down critical thinking. And it also has the effect I'm talking about, where it will literally program this loving part of the mind with this dark, negative, repetitive content, and you don't know it. But when you go off the couch, you're going to act out at least some of it, if not all of it, inside your regular life. And you're going to think your decisions are organic to you, which they're not. And to manufacture the best victim, it's optimal in psychological studies. If we can get a victim or a mark who believes they're too smart to be put under mind control, that's the easiest person to put under mind control.
Yes, I'm sure. And it's incredible to hear, and also to understand and to know, and we've seen this always, how easily suggestible and easy to influence people are in general, as you talk about in groups. And we see this in the educational system, of course, and the health system, and well, in the media, politically, and everywhere else. It ties into the whole how our world is built right now. But I mean, why do you think? I mean, do you think that it's because of a certain occult frequency that they also beam into the world in some kind of way through this ritual satanic magic and symbolism that they use, sacrifices, whatever, and maybe also something otherworldly that is kind of shrouding the whole world in a way, and so that everybody will be so easily programmed?
I think their modalities of occult magic are in play today, but they're very well hidden. So you're talking frequency, and the dark occultist works at sort of the lowest frequency, sort of at the root chakra zone and even lower in terms of hertz. And the way human behavior is also hypothesized to work is that the frequency that we're vibrating at sort of bends time and creates our reality. So if you have a low frequency, you'll do what's called the devil's work. I call it the devil's Wi-Fi. If your frequency is really low, you will actually pick up as almost a broadcast and radio receiver. Like, I believe the entire body is a broadcast antenna and also a receiver antenna. And if you have a low frequency, I believe one of the only radio stations you can hear is what I call the devil's Wi-Fi. And this sort of dark occult know everything about the frequencies, and they're hoping to manifest the lowest frequencies in the human vessel in order to bring about the most primal behavior, which is sort of dark and evil. And if you follow something like someone eats some junk food, they basically go to a lower vibration. They activate the most primal part of the brain complex called the limbic system. which is at the back of the skull, near the spine. So like to the back and down. In that part of the brain complex has benefits in a fight. It has benefits in running away from a predator. It has benefits in dealing with terror, panic, or crisis, but it's not supposed to be on all the time. And you can see these dark occultists feeding us foods. They're not even foods, they're food-like things, manipulating our media so that we're always living back here at the low frequency. It's called the reptilian brain for a reason, or the R complex, or the hind brain. And you can see that dark, sorry about the, I don't know if you can hear the ambulance.
Sirens.
The sirens.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds pretty loud today.
Yeah.
But you can see the ancient occult vibrational knowledge in what they're putting on our TV screens and what they're feeding us. Alcohol does this, narcotics do this. And of course, this group, if you search them, you'll find like even the opium wars where they took over China in the late 1700s, it was the same group. They would just drown the ports in opium and make the people weak in low vibration, make them easier. Like you will dissolve the cohesive nature of any culture because of the low vibration and the evil entities that are supposed to occupy low vibrational vessels. And so you can see even in Canada today, you see the occult use of, we have marijuana now coast to coast. It's completely legal in Canada. And in British Columbia, Canada, they are selling cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and any drug out of food trucks because you're allowed to legally possess anything less than 2.5 grams, but the cops aren't endorsing or enforcing that at all. People are walking around with 10 grams of cocaine, 10 grams of heroin.
Really? Is that allowed in Canada?
That's legal, and the
That's
government is the
legal?
one setting it up. They're supplying the population with, they're supplying the sellers with the heroin, the cocaine, and the fentanyl. They're calling it safe supply because, of course, this group is also masters of what's called dialectics, which is doing the opposite of what they say. Because when opposite vibrations, if you look at an oscilloscope, which is sort of a vibration measuring device for music, if you look at an oscilloscope, if you put in one wave and then you put in the other wave, so you can see the vibration frequency war going on here, the occult frequency, you put in one idea and then you put in the opposite wave and you get a flat line. It's called destructive interference. So the government here is the same government, like you said, has been doing this for thousands of years. They're using the frequency of opposite ideas to cause a flat line of thinking, and anybody that will getting the spell cast upon them, they get a flat line because the government here said, we're going to supply the drug addicts with all the drugs they need because this will help save lives. And then, of course, as soon as they did that, and it was only 1 year ago that they did that, all the overdoses tripled overnight, which is really what they're trying to do because the drug addicts sort of are a burden on the medical system. So they're trying to kill them off to save the money.
There's a huge difference between cannabis, right, which is also helpful in a way, than these hard drugs, obviously, right?
Well, unfortunately, nothing this group does benefits the people. They do not empower the people. And this can be some cognitive dissonance as well, where, you know, the government's up to complete, evil all over the map, but, they've legalized marijuana because they care for the people. If you investigate smoking marijuana, it interferes with something called hippocampus neurogenesis, which means it robs the brain's ability to remember old past memories and log new ones as well. So this is, if you want to know exactly how that works, go to Dr. Michael Nell's new book called The Indoctrinated Brain. You don't even have to read the book. He did a great interview with Tucker Carlson. It's only 40 minutes long. So Dr. Michael Nell's and basically Tucker Carlson, and all Dr. Nell's talks about is the destruction of the hippocampus and its function of hippocampal neurogenesis because of certain ingredients in the thing. But I mean, I just released an article on this morning on my own website, and it shows that, so Dr. Nels only talks about the ingredients in the thing that does exactly what I'm talking about to the hippocampus. My research also shows that smoking marijuana does the exact same thing. And this is why they've
Really, that is
legalized it.
so important or interesting, and people should definitely look into that because it has helped, we know, a lot of people to relieve their pain and other things that supposedly are quite good. Well, other addictions and drugs are way worse, they say, but that's not what you say then.
What I'm saying is it can relieve pain by destroying the hippocampus. The hippocampus is associated with past memory. Now, if you were a ruler and you could, like Dr. Nels compares it to wiping a hard drive clean. So the only way our defense systems operate is to access past memories and determine if it's safe to proceed or dangerous to proceed. So if you're in the ruling group and you find out a formula to destroy past memories, you leave the victim unable to defend themselves from anything you do to them. So if you're wondering why a lot of people did not react, and the biggest disruptor and the biggest destroyer of past memories is caffeine, coffee. And this is why coffee is on every corner as well. So the thing ingredients, coffee, smoking marijuana, the jury's still out with, edible versions, but these things are all proven to destroy hippocampal neurogenesis, which means allows the person to access the past so that they can defend themselves or judge the situation as dangerous enough to defend themselves from. So I remember an experiment where there was a cat that had his hippocampus removed, and they had the cat in one part of a glass box, a very thick glass box for a very obvious reason. And there was a very vicious pit bull, picked because of its viciousness. And thank God that plexiglass was 3 inches thick, because that pit bull was trying to get through that glass. Basically, within a minute of the experiment, you could barely see the pit bull. There was so much saliva on his part of the glass, the cat didn't move. The cat could not react to danger. The cat could not mount any effect to protect itself. And then if you look into the public today, you see the same thing. The evil, they're sticking their head in the lion's mouth. They can't muster a proper defense. It's because this group has been attacking hippocampal operation, which allows defense, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time. It was the British royals that discovered this effect of caffeine and how it really changed brain function in 1610, where this is why they would have tea time and caffeinate the people that work their property, because it sort of makes the slavery feel groovy, and it removes the ability of the person to rebel. And then when the Crusades were enacted in like 1685, they brought back this bean from Arabia and said, we know why you're using the tea, but we believe this has the same compound, but it works even better. We think it's a higher dosage of what's in the tea leaves. So they tried it out, and bingo, bango, bongo. This was their drug for the next 500 years. And it disrupts the hippocampus. And there's something called the monarch effect, like MK Ultra, Project Monarch. Project Monarch, the word is based on the lifespan of the monarch butterfly, which takes 3 generations to go from Mexico to Canada. And generally, the research is if I can damage your hippocampus for 3 generations, the 4th generation will have a DNA alteration that damages their hippocampus. So this group is very good at setting up brain damaging rituals and ceremonies in the public that they rule, so that eventually the animal procreates to the point where they're so docile, they just become easier to rule over time. This is what the marijuana is for. This is why there's coffee on every corner. Alcohol does this as well. This is their 1-2 punch. Their 1-2 punch was coffee, alcohol. Now they have the 1-2 punch, 1-2-3 punch, coffee, alcohol, and smoking marijuana, which they want to legalize. They would have it legalized now if there wasn't such a normalized cultural pushback. But in Canada now, it's legalized coast to coast. And you can see Canadians are like that cat. They're being attacked and they simply can't react. They just basically put their hands down their pants, watch Netflix, and keep drinking coffee, alcohol, and eating, food, junk food. This is a very, very dangerous normalized cycle in our society because it provides the ruling group with the primary neurological platform they need to execute their tyranny.
But, okay, so let's talk about addictions versus enjoyment. I wanted to get into all of this a little bit later, but let's definitely do that now. So, Jason, while I'm talking to you, you can see here's our wonderful mug.
I kind of like the color.
Which is available for purchase on our website. Isn't it great with a little plug? But while
Beautiful.
I'm talking to you and having a great conversation, I could very well be enjoying a cup of cappuccino or latte or just a cup of coffee.
Right.
Should I not be allowed to do that? And is that not good for me? I mean, maybe I'm not addicted to it, but I could enjoy it. I mean, and people in general in this world, they need that cup of coffee in the morning, right, to get up there and to feel a little bit fresh and freshened. So what is your opinion about that? Should we just totally renounce coffee and never drink it again?
Well, basically, you can look at it a couple ways. First of all, it's about progress. It's not about perfection. And we have something in the school called working on your addiction inside the addiction with the addiction, which means if someone wanted to actually inform themselves and educate themselves on the dangers of caffeine, they would get the book called Caffeine Blues by Stephen Chernisky. And they would read it.
Sorry, Jason. How do you spell that last name? It sounded foreign.
It's a Cherniske, Chernisky, Stephen Chernisky.
Right.
And it's called Caffeine Blues. And we would encourage the coffee drinkers to drink their coffee while they read it, because it'll actually help things absorb a little deeper. And then you'll see basically coffee's responsible for carpal tunnel syndrome, colitis, Crohn's, diverticulitis, ulcers, strokes, heart attacks, accelerated aging, blood clots. It's responsible for almost every disease up and down the disease ladder. And with that, the person they will program themselves even while they're drinking the coffee and start understanding if they're not addicted, why can't they stop? And then what happens, there's miracles that happen when because you said enjoyment. I enjoy the coffee. The word enjoy is from the phrase, in, not E-N-I-N, the joy inside. So this is what they use the coffee for. They'll put you in a really nefarious situation, maybe a job you don't like, maybe a society or culture you don't really enjoy. And then so many of these ambulances going by today. I think we know why. But basically, they're going to give you a fake. It's fake. You're not really enjoying anything. You're in a situation that you can't enjoy. So they'll say, look, if we're going to do this to these people, if they feel their pain, they will rebel. So they know this. This is like their rule book. You have to not only psychologically manipulate them, you have to interfere with their proper brain function and their proper neurological function. So if you're going to enslave the people, they will become in a large amount of pain. And enslaved people in pain don't work inside the manual for ruling the masses. You're going to put them in a crappy situation, and then the usual process is that the person feels pain and wants to relieve their pain. This is why you give them all these painkillers, to make the slavery feel groovy, so that when they're in the crappy situation, they're getting different neurological impulses other than the crappy situation. So caffeine is a major neurological numbing agent. So is alcohol. So is sugar. So is marijuana. So are all of these things. Even if you step into the clinical field, there's someone working a job that's soulless. It's directionless. It is not what they were sent here to do. That person will start feeling pain that alcohol can't mask, that caffeine can't mask. It can for about 10 years, and then the pain gets so accumulated it breaks through. Could be a teacher teaching children today. She feels depressed, goes into the medical system. They say, depression is a malfunction. Something's wrong with you. You're feeling pain. So not only are they going to give you the painkillers, they're going to frame it in a way where your pain is a problem. Your pain is a malfunction. There's something wrong with you. That's the problem. What you need to do is what they'll say. The prescription's always the same. Make sure this person who's enslaved don't feel their pain, or we're going to get the old torch and pitchfork agenda in front of the castle. So they give them a pill, and it makes sure numb themselves more and say, look, get back to that job that you don't like. Get back on the treadmill. Maybe have a couple more coffees. Smoke a couple more joints after work, because then you got your free time. That's when the depression really piles on, when you have your free time. Drink some more wine. Watch some more Netflix of people killing each other and stabbing each other. And just keep plowing into that life that you don't enjoy. And someone says, well, I really enjoy my life. I'm like, good. Take away all that stuff then. Take away all the fake feel-good emotions and put your hand on your real life like this. Because you're going to feel like you're putting your hand on a hot stove and the element's set to 10. That's your real life. That's always been your real life. But because you're so sedated and so tranquilized, and this group has done this, you haven't made up any of these decisions yourself. It's like the guy in The Push throwing the old man off the 10-story building. He did that because the advertising in his environment told him to do that. Anybody that's smoking marijuana, drinking coffee, drinking alcohol, you don't need to quit it right away. Educate as you're inside the substance. But the facts are clear. You're ingesting chemicals that destroy certain functions of the brain. You're ingesting chemicals that destroy your health, make you an easier chicken to get the eggs from, make you an easier bee to pillage the honey from. You were milking cattle. Now you're getting graduated to beef cattle, and you're getting right back on. You're walking up the ramp to the truck, which goes to the abattoir, because you're all goofed up on these psychoactive substances that disallow you from feeling the danger that you're in. And all those substances are put throughout your community on purpose. Like, do you even know that Bill Gates owns Starbucks? Like, who do you even know that? Right?
I didn't know that. He owns that too?
Yeah.
Huh.
So if for a man, imagine a man going to public square and gathering everybody around and saying, I want to live here, but I think there's too many of you. People be looking, this is the dialectic, right? Like, how did this guy get up on the stage? But anyways, up on the stage, there's too many of you. And then the next day opens a coffee shop. You're going to go drink that coffee, or have you lost your mind? And this is the thing. It was in 1986. There was only 6 Starbucks. A man called Howard Schultz worked at the store, worked managing the 6 Starbucks in 1986. And then there was a declaration that the 6 stores were going bankrupt. And Howard said, I love this place. I want to buy this. So he went to a guy, and Howard Schultz was the CEO of Starbucks up until about 4 years ago. So he went and it was $2 million to get it out of bankruptcy. So he went to a man and said, I would like to buy it. And the man was really rich and said, you know what, Howard, I really like you, but I don't really need you. And I know you don't have the money, so I'm going to go buy it. So Howard was like, he was literally crying as a grown man. He went to the basketball court that night. Someone saw that he was down. He leaned on him, told the story. Someone on the basketball court says, hold on, I got someone you want to talk to. So he goes to this man who's 6'4" into his law office, tells his story, and the 6'4" man says, who's the guy that stole that deal from you? And so Howard tells him. That 6'4" guy goes out of the office, doesn't even ask for an appointment, goes into another office tower, opens the door by force, and looks the man, points him in the chest, and says, this deal's done. I'm buying this with this guy. You're not going to do anything. You're going to stand down, and you know why. And the guy said, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Who was this guy? William Gates Sr., and the funding was given by Bill Gates Jr. So why would a group like this, with the ties that they have to eugenic philosophy, ancient ruling bloodlines, why would that group be so interested in caffeine? Well, of course, they know from all the secret society documents and meetings that caffeine is one of the primary modalities of control of the human population. That's where they took Starbucks from 6 stores up to 35,000 stores. And it's the dominant now coffee shop. And not only are they serving the caffeine, everything in there is just covered in wall-to-wall poison. Anything served at Starbucks would choke a maggot. It is unbelievable. And they are fleecing the population. The profit margins on these drinks and products are huge. So not only are they putting the public under the caffeine form of mind control through destruction of the hippocampus, they're also fleecing the public of their financial strength. Because all mind control, it's one thing for a person not to have a hippocampus, which means they can't recognize danger. It's another thing to have them living check to check, which means the person's weak mentally, and they're also weak financially. You want to control people, get them weak on as many fronts as possible. It just makes it easier.
That makes total sense. And also there's supposedly something inside of the cups at Starbucks. I mean,
BPA. It's BPA, and it actually causes males to be aborted in the womb.
Really?
Absolutely. People can go check this. There's a CBC documentary. That's the Canadian Brainwashing Corporation when they used to do truthful reporting. CBC documentary. It's called The Disappearing Male. And if you're going to dominate a society, just like Max Speyer said before he was, I don't know if anybody knows Max Speyer.
Max Spears, right?
He was assassinated in Poland, or just after he gave a Polish talk. Yeah. He used to be, I think, a bit of a channeler. And he said
he was supposed to be on our show. I spoke with him, but he never made it because he died
assassinated
tragically.
Yeah. And he even said at that Polish talk, he had a translator, but when you want to take over a planet or a species or anything, even a village, you have to get rid of the strong males. And the BPA not only makes less males, if a male happens to get out of the womb, sort of like by chance, he would be less male than if he would not be exposed to the BPA.
Right, exactly. And I also want to get into the whole gender agenda and your take on masculinity. But let's do that a little bit later and stay on the addictions and the substances here. Certainly what you're saying there about coffee and caffeine, that's very, very important. And one thing is Starbucks, but I mean, some of this coffee plant is from your part of the world right now, in at least South America or something like that, they said that was pretty a good thing when it's not, you know, well, polluted with all kinds of ingredients. But you're saying that this is you have to cut down and eventually stop drinking coffee and caffeine, right?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that everybody's going to have to sort of decide which line, like what group they're on. And a lot of people don't understand why they didn't react. So it's good to transfer information and do podcasts and do interviews. Like I said, I do about 200 interviews per year, but there's a difference between being knowledgeable and having the bravery to stand up. And
actually implement it in your own life, I suppose.
yeah, or if push came to shove, I mean, if someone comes up, if they say, look, we got to keep your kid at school because of a fictitious made up issue, if you're weak because you're always polluting yourself, and this is what weakness is based on, there's a difference between you saying you're strong and the subconscious deciding these things on your behalf. Like, it's your subconscious that knows if you're really strong or weak or not. And so if they're poisoning everybody, so they're just like little jelly donuts. They're very easy to manhandle, manipulate, lie to, steal from. We're losing a lot of the strength, and even it's not just physical strength. I'd rather someone who was weak physically and strong morally in a fight with this group. So we're losing our physical strength, we're losing our moral strength, our ethical direction, and these aren't accidents. We're all born physically capable. We're all born morally and ethically strong. But it's been proven when you watch all these Netflix shows. I mean, the MK Ultra, and I was just on a podcast with Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien, maybe she's on the show.
Of course, she's a very important figure about, talking about how she was a mind control victim under MK Ultra.
Yeah, and the thing is, that was an individual, and a lot of, like, there were humans killed in front of Kathy, there were animals killed in front of Kathy, and people don't understand. Like I just said when I was talking about Gone in 60 Seconds, this part of the brain doesn't know the difference between real time, what's on a screen, and what's in your mind's eye. So this group literally had meetings and said, we want to do to the world what we've done to Kathy, but we can't grab every person and sacrifice something. And like, how are we ever going to do that? It's impossible. Someone said Netflix. Well, just every show we'll put on John Wick 1, John Wick 2, John Wick 3, John Wick 4 now, Equalizer 1 through 3. Every show is what they did to Kathy. And it doesn't matter if you see a human sacrifice in real life, which Kathy did, or you see it on Netflix. It's the same neurological reaction. It's called a cremation of care. It's called a cremation of care ritual, which means
at Bohemian Grove.
That's the Bohemian Grove. And the thing is, that one's just like a burning of an effigy. They're almost laughing at us. It's our entertainment. It's not even entertainment, it's entrainment. They're cremating our ability to care about ourselves. And if you don't care about yourself, you don't care about others either, because it's automatic.
You talk about moderate and restrictive behavior and in terms of addictions and what you enjoy, that what is real addiction, what is enjoyment, and how moderate and restrictive do we need to be? I mean, how boring is this ride going to get? I mean, I'm thinking about in terms of, for example, enjoying alcohol, not becoming an alcoholic. I know way too many people drink too much, and a lot of us go to too many parties, and there's always a drink and whatever. But I mean, enjoying a good wine or something for dinner, or a good conversation, isn't that it's the taste, it's the feeling, it's nice.
Yeah, it can be, but you can get they're making sure to really pad the cities. There will be no 15-minute city surveillance out. You can free to leave at any time, but there's no wine or coffee out in the free zone. It'll just be you and your farm. That's it. So what they're doing is they're pumping all these. This is the devil's realm, right? If you stay in the city, do what you're told, they'll give you the wine, but you got to take the thing. You got to take 3 things a year. And that's what that's your enjoyment. It's because they've made the natural world, they've made God's world so miserable compared to their simulacra. And so it's a real big trap for the average person. And basically the wine's going to stop either way. The coffee's going to stop either way. The movies are going to stop either way. They're going to give it to you only when you do what they want. And what they want is blasting you off the planet. So you're going to be, because if you're drawn by your need for fake feel-good emotions, a fake life, fake happiness, chemical happiness instead of real happiness. And we all know what biblical figure will be offering the fake happiness come my way. It's not going to be the righteous light that's going to be saying, come with me. I got your wine. I got your coffee. I got your Netflix. I got your steroids. I got your cocaine. I used to do all of those. It's up to each person, because if people stop the alcohol and the coffee all at once, all across the world, people would regenerate their hippocampus, and they would know that they're facing an evil that's really going to destroy them in very short order if they don't defend themselves.
But a lot of us do know that. But I mean, how restrictive do we need to be? So you don't believe in moderation. You believe that we have to be restrictive and not drink alcohol, for example, and coffee. You don't drink a beer or wine occasionally anymore?
No, I've stopped drinking, I don't know, 20 years ago. And
not even for a dinner.
No, I've never drank a whole drink in probably 20 years. And there was 10 years where I didn't even take I would do a wine tour during the 10-year stint. And then someone would say, you got to try this. And I would still say no. So there's been times where I've been on vacation, maybe on a boat in beautiful blue water. They get made a martini on the boat, and the person says, this is the best martini I ever had. Now I'll pretend sip it, put it to my lips. But for 10 years, I didn't. So, and it's not like you want to be like me, but you have to understand your part. It's up for everybody to understand their part in this, because the weaker someone is as an individual, the weaker the entire tribe is. So I think we've had enough playtime. I think we've had enough sedation, fake feel-good emotion to choke a rhino. And I know it feels good. But, when you look at the
what
balance,
do you have that is fun or nice to drink, good taste, or giving you a good feeling? I mean, this also is leading us into another topic that some people in this field are saying, they don't want you to eat meat or drink or alcohol and coffee. What about sex, for example? We have that drive, and you have a girlfriend in Latvia.
Yeah, that's not the same as like coffee or something or alcohol.
Oh,
and don't forget,
isn't it?
What do I do to have fun? The thing is, my life on the fun scale eclipses the average person who's just getting the fake fun. Like because of the brain function I have, I'm a self-made millionaire many times over. And I don't drink or do alcohol, do coffee. I fly around the world. I enjoy myself at the finest restaurants, absence of alcohol. I stay at the finest hotels. I fight all around the world, giving these speeches, engaging with high intellectual people everywhere I go, getting invited to private events where the best truth tellers are there. You're around high caliber people all the time. And so that's the life that's gifted to someone. See, we're in sort of holographic casino. If someone wants this amazing life, the casino will always be looking at you, almost like the all-seeing eye, and saying, is Jason, can he handle this? Or is he just going to self-destruct, right? If we give him this money, if we give him this spotlight, if we give Jason center stage, if we get him on the Joe Rogan show, if we get him on the Gareth Ike show, I was on that yesterday. And basically, you don't get given the good life unless you earn it in this holographic casino. So you got a lot of people sort of at the bottom, thinking that they're having a good life, but they don't really know. Like, how can you know if you're really enjoying life if your nervous system is turned off? I mean, the actual nervous system is there to assess if you're having a good life or not, but no one really wants to really turn it on. Coffee turns it off, alcohol turns it off, sugar turns it off, marijuana turns it off. So a lot of people will declare, I'm having a good life. And I'm like, okay, I understand, but go 6 weeks, because it takes 6 weeks for the caffeine to get out of your system. Go 6 weeks without any of your sedative substances, and then make an honest adult declaration in regards to your life enjoyment function. And that's all I'm trying to say, is that
so they're also trying right now, Jason, to push this vegan agenda on the population and calling under the guise of climate change and what have you. What are your thoughts on meat and meat eating and versus veganism?
Well, it's very obvious. 70% of the brain is saturated fat. So if you're looking to, again, affect brain function, lower IQ, dumb down the population, you want to vilify saturated fat, and especially cholesterol, because cholesterol is the primary component of all cellular strength. So without cholesterol that's made, from grass-fed animals, not factory-farmed animals, you're going to have another weakening of the body proper. And of course, there's a lot of vegan repetitive content throughout the world done purposely. And I've only met 2 or 3 vegans that are really super healthy, because I've coached 700 people in self-sabotage, many vegans, and it becomes a doctrine. It becomes like dogma. It becomes their religion, where no matter how sickly they look or how many metabolic breakdowns they're having, they can't break from the doctrine when their body's saying, hey, it worked for a while. I lost some weight, but it's not working long term. So this again, there's a phrase in the Bible, beware of anybody that tries to take the place of God. So you can see what's going on here, trying to make the devil's food, the devil's Wi-Fi, the devil's water, the devil's medicine. I'm not a biblical man by any stretch of the imagination, but I know the cow is probably made by the same force that's made us. But the thing is, and I know when they're trying to feed me something that's not made from the same force that made us. They're spraying poison on the food. They're tricking us to pee and poop in the same water that we drink. This is all very nefarious, and it's been very nefarious for a long time. And again, the reason people can't see it is they're heavily sedated with these normalized psychoactive substances that literally destroy brain function.
So, of course, meat is very important. And a lot of vegans also turn back to eating meat after a while if they got too sick or something. But some people do say that they're very successful being a vegan.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
For years. So maybe it's also very individual who is, receptive to whatever they eat. And it's a jungle, the whole thing about nutrition and what is best for you, really. But you talked about Bible history. Jesus turned water into wine, Jason.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, yes, he grows things, so for sure. He turned the water into grapes is what he did. It was the men to turn the grapes into wine. Jesus wasn't a winemaker. but
well, maybe he drank it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he drank it or not, but given the way he was flipping tables over at the market of the bankers, I would imagine he had the courage and the bravery that is in. He knew that the bankers were dangerous, which means his hippocampus was active. And of course, alcohol and all these things damage the hippocampus. People can look it up themselves and just put in the drug of choice and hippocampal function or hippocampus, and you'll see that all these things are handpicked to really affect someone's ability to resist very dangerous situations. And a lot of people today, I mean, they're sitting in danger. People are passing all around them. The evil is encroaching, and they just keep going, hoping someone else will solve the problem, which is exactly what happens when you have a hippocampal damage.
The worst addiction probably is sugar addiction, I suppose. But and that's that, and they put sugar in everything, basically, even the bread you eat and whatever. And but what about you? You didn't really address my question on our, well, sexual addiction as well. Well, it's not just an addiction; it's a natural drive inside of us. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that then?
absolutely. I mean, a lot of people have sex addiction, or you might even call it, I don't know if anybody has sex addiction. They might have masturbation addiction. And we see today there was a study released today that when Pornhub Pornhub was released, I don't know, was it 1992? And Pornhub usage went up, and I don't know what went down. I can't remember, but it was some mark of males doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'll have to get that up on my website soon. But the thing about
Well,
pornography,
it couldn't be in 92. The internet wasn't invented then.
or maybe it was 2002, maybe someone can
Probably
look up.
it probably would be, huh? Because the
Yeah.
internet didn't really surface publicly until 95, and then
Yeah, so
ordinary
Pornhub,
people got it late 90s.
maybe it was 2002 or maybe it was 2012, but I just saw that throw by on my screen today. But the thing about sort of being addicted to masturbation is different than the sex addiction. People probably used to be addicted to sex, but then, the masturbation addiction kind of overrode that because it's a lot quicker. It requires a lot less energy. So the thing about men, for them to be their best, they need to compete with other men for whatever they're looking for. So if you don't have to compete with another male because you can get sort of satisfied sexually with the pornography, men generally lose their drive to become better or better themselves. So this is another facet, the psychological facet of making porn so readily available. Like you have to pay to watch a movie, like a new movie on the internet. But of course, there's every kind of pornography is free. It's free for a reason because it sort of breaks traditional nuclear family bonds. It disables men from being competitive, or inhibits them from being competitive, making their best selves. There's many psychological war advantages for making pornography free. So maybe there used to be sex addiction in the past, but
But
in
it's
in
also making men feel inadequate in a way, these porn films, and giving them low self-esteem. I mean, some men.
yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's in the porn industry. They have penises like a baby's arm. And, this can make people feel very inadequate about themselves. And this is why, it's such a danger. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And if you look into black scrying mirrors, most people are masturbating maybe in the bathroom with their phone. And there's a big energy transfer into the screen and energetically into the porn stars. You're losing your energy. It's another sort of black magic way of draining your energy into an electronic device and away from your own goals, your own motivations, and your own discipline. because a lot of people are lacking the discipline today to get anything done. And if you can't keep a promise to yourself, like I'm not going to masturbate for a week, like when we break promises to ourselves, we weaken ourselves on so many fronts. We become sort of impotent or castrated of our ability to create in the real world. And these are all concepts I teach inside my school, where I teach all the facets of personal power so that we can create, like the magicians we are, in the real world and create the lives that we want.
But are you also against masturbation then?
I'm like, I like, it's just like coffee. I mean, if you want to use the addiction inside the addiction to deal with the addiction, I mean, if you want to masturbate while you're educating on the dangers of masturbation, that's the start. That's where most people start. It doesn't matter if it's dealing with alcohol or coffee or
Well, it
Netflix
depends
addiction.
on how you take it, or if it's dangerous for you. If you go into that dark realm that you're talking about, I mean,
Even if you watch
so
normal,
that means well, if you didn't have a girlfriend, then you wouldn't do it.
well, basically, if I didn't have a girlfriend, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go out and basically
Find
put
another
in the
one.
find another one, right? Because if I start masturbating, then I can just turn myself into a poverty-stricken couch potato. Because if I can just get my sexual needs satisfied on the phone, which is what they want, well, then I lose my competitive edge out in the real world to attract a mate.
But it's still not the same as being close to somebody. And actually,
Absolutely.
even if it's in a love synergy situation, which is, of course, the best, not just for sexual gratification or something like that. I mean, but that's not available for everybody all the time. That you find that right person, that person that you can really love, and that love is returned.
Yeah, it's not available for anybody, like everybody all the time. Like if I lost my girlfriend today, I couldn't just walk in the next day. There's a rite of, again, it's kind of reflective of like, oh, I'm going to be in pain because I'm alone. You kind of smell that pain is bad problem again coming up. It's not bad to walk alone. It's not bad to be alone. It strengthens you as long as you're walking that hero's journey. And so it's never good to frame, the loneliness and the hardship and the discomfort and the failure of leaving an addiction behind as something that's pain. This isn't something to be afraid of. This is something to embrace. Because don't forget, it's been proven in psychology, you need pain, comfort, and failure to mature from a child to an adult. So everybody's like, oh, well, it might be hard. I'm like, well, why are you so afraid of the hard time? Well, because society has said the hard time is to be avoided. And this is like the societal fun, the fun park. This is a 24-hour Disneyland. And if you're in pain, you feel like you're missing out. But I went through all the pain of quitting addictions. I was addicted to cocaine, bad company, steroids, alcohol, junk food. I was addicted to all of it. And basically, I just let it all go using very simple mind control techniques. And my life has only gotten better. There was no fun in that. It was fake fun, fake
So, and
bonding,
that, and
fake
we're going to
friendship.
talk about that amazing transformation that you had there. But you talked about the weakened male.
Mhm.
Would you say that you were an example of that weakened male? And what is the opposite of that? How would you describe masculinity? You're a masculine man, but I mean, you have the softer side, as we all do, and the strong side as well. How would you describe masculinity as opposed to being macho, for example, and the weakened male that they're kind of promoting at the moment, right?
Well, my pledge as a male is once all this got cleared out, and I was the weakened male for many decades. But my pledge as a male spirit that is inhabiting Jason's bodysuit at the moment is I am put here to protect females, children, the disabled, and the seniors, and anybody too weak or innocent to defend themselves at the time. Not that I'm going to covet or protect them too long from defending themselves, but if you're capable eventually of defending yourself, I will teach you that it's time that you do so. So as a male electrical charge on this planet, I realize I am only here to stand between evil and innocence. That's it, regardless of any other factor. And if I have to die, I would die for your kid. I would die for my kid. I would die for a stranger's kid. If someone was trying to attack that kid, if evil was trying to, get at that child. And if you want to find evil in today's society or even throughout history, put a kid out in the open and evil will always come out. And they'll be wearing a human disguise, of course, but the pedophiles, the predators, they will always be migrating. The demons in human bodysuits will always be migrating around the open children. And this is why school trips are very dangerous, why school is very dangerous, because humans are just broadcast towers. And when there's an innocent child that has a high shine, the demon will find that the adult, the weak man or woman. See, this is the thing about the danger of being polluted, is because you have no spiritual immunity, you have no force field. So when I used to drink and do cocaine and do alcohol, I was the weak male and I was easily possessed. And someone says, oh, that's a word, it's overused. No. When I was drinking alcohol, I could feel my good soul leave. And I would describe it as such when I knew nothing about this stuff. I could feel my old soul leave, and I would say, my old soul, my good soul, it seemed to go out on a tether because it doesn't like this alcohol swimming pool that it's, residing in. So then I felt empty for a couple of minutes, and then I could feel something else enter me, something dark. Something that liked to start bar fights. Not only was I on steroids, I like to fight. I like to start bar fights with other males. I like to harass women, not harass them. And, I tried to date them, or too aggressive. They might even have a boyfriend. That's what would start the fight at the time. And then that dark demon would want to maybe drive drunk and cause damage and cause all kinds of chaos and terror and panic when they had this temporary access to my body, my wallet, my fast sports car. I was always gifted business-wise since a very young age. So, and then I'd wake up in the morning like everybody else, and the first thing out of my mouth, or it would enter my mind's eye, was, that wasn't you. And I'm like, no shit, that wasn't me. Of course it wasn't me. It was something else. It was something devilish, dark, overly sexual, hedonistic. And as soon as I got rid of all these toxins, I felt like this force field where I could actually build my strength behind the force field and never have this, soul transfer ever again. And when you're around me, and this is why you're in the leadership position as a male. I'm in many leadership positions as a strong male in my circle. It's a very big circle. You have to come to the table with this leadership criteria that you're not going to fall down one day and be like an open vessel for some dangerous activity. And that's the personal responsibility I take with my health, is that I'm not going to change my frequency. I don't know if they're entering me or I'm just picking up like a low vibrational devil Wi-Fi radio station. But if I have coffee, alcohol, junk food, sugar, drugs, things go wrong in my life. It's almost like I'm getting punished by that universal casino. And when I do, and if I stick to, not masturbating, not doing any of this stuff, you go up these levels. And I don't know who designed this game, but I figured out how to play this game. And it's to be clean and dedicate day in, 24 hours at a time. When I go to bed, Lucas, I give myself a mark, A+, A minus, B+. And if I didn't go near any of those addictive things that lower my vibration, I always get an A+. It's a
But
very
sometimes
satisfying
you can
system.
fail.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes I'll have like a dessert. Like tonight, we're going to a 5-star Michelin restaurant tonight, and I'll be having, I already picked it, the caramel fondant. So we're not getting an A+ tonight. There's going to be some sugar ingested for sure.
But I mean, Jason, a lot of people watching this will say it's easy for him because he's well off. You have a lot of money. You've been successful. You know how to do that game. You talked about you can travel wherever you want to, 5-star places, Michelin restaurants, you name it. I mean, that's a good life. So it's easy for you to say that I want to live the good life and have the good ingredients and the cows from the field and all that. I mean, so not everybody can say that because they don't have the funds, they don't have the means to do this.
Yeah, well, I just told you a story that I was a cocaine addict, and there's not a lot of money floating around when you're a cocaine addict, and drank and bar fought and thrown in jail. And so focus on the comeback. Because the thing about business success, like my business success is based on the size of the mountain I traveled. From a cocaine addict to being at the Kennedy Caucus Room in Washington, D.C. at a Senate hearing on mind control.
Yeah, but you still had a lot of money when you were doing cocaine, right? Because you were still successful in business.
I had a fair amount. I had the same amount that the average family would have as a single man, maybe a little bit more. But the thing is, anybody can do this. And if someone says, I can't do it, well, what's holding you back? It could be your coffee. It could be your alcohol. And you say, oh, I'm not an addict. The person could say, I'm not an addict. But maybe you're just lacking strength.
So you transformed your life amazingly, obviously, and that can be a huge inspiration and is a huge inspiration for a lot of people, the people that you have in your courses and that have that you're teaching. But I mean, some people don't have that ability, that talent that you have for business and for being very successful, whether you were a coke addict and all that, and then you changed, but you're still successful and you still take care of yourself and all that. Can you be an inspiration? Can you be a teacher for people to transform their lives, to deprogram them from this mind control indoctrination, to change them and for them to really become successful? Maybe they weren't before. Maybe they didn't have that talent. Can you inspire that talent in people?
Well, I can do more than inspire. I can teach them. And if they don't have the ability to open the business, I mean, that's my specialty, is showing people the first business that they could open. I mean, this is my specialty. And of course, you're not going to learn how to open a business inside a government slave training camp, because this is why they'll teach you how to fill out a resume. They never teach you how to fill out a business plan. They never invite business people into government schools to lecture about what it takes to make 6 figures, what it takes to make 7 figures, how to upregulate to 10 figures or 11 figures. They never teach kids how to do that. So of course, when someone says they don't have the ability, everybody's got the ability. They just taught you job focus. It's a mind control trap. When you need more money, you're like, what job can I get? And if you're stuck at a financial level, they're going to teach you. The first question is, where do I get another job? Who's going to pay me more? That's not the way you were designed. If you need more, you got to ask the question, how can you give more? If you're not making enough money, you're not helping enough people. This is the sort of business strategy I teach people inside my courses. I don't want to make it a course pitch. I'll teach this stuff for free. People can get on my email list. Get on my private list. I'll teach you at no charge about how all these control systems operate. Email me at info@jchristoff.com. Christoff is Christ with an OFF on the end. And I'll teach you for free. Yeah, I got programs, but they're not necessary. If you want to jump in, great. If you don't, that's also great. But know that if someone's having a hard time with all these drugs, all these things that weaken them, they feel helpless, they're in job focus, I'm going to tell you, you're working as designed. Those are the programs they put into you using the perfection protection system of the subconscious mind pathway. They're hacking it for nefarious reasons. They're making you a human mess. I can make you a human success using the same tactics. And again, even if you want the push, you want to watch the push, that Darren Brown Netflix special, email me as well, and I'll send you a copy of that.
Because it's not available to see it somewhere online.
You can try, as even if you're a magician and you know BitChute and you know Odyssey and you know Brave browser or DuckDuckGo, the chances you are find it is 1 in 10.
Really? So it's like
I tell
really
people,
kept
try
under
and
the
find
lock.
that. Try and find that.
Oh, wow. But I mean, you can, how does this work constructively? You can change the mind control to so that people, what you're saying is that you can teach people to mind control themselves, to change their pattern and become successful. I mean, but that can people really truly be deprogrammed?
Absolutely. We deprogram people every single day. Anybody that's done my courses never stayed the same. They always move up. Even people who just feed off my free information, their lives are always getting better. Quitting addictions, becoming healthier, becoming stronger, starting their own first business. Even if they have a job, they start their business as a side hustle, work on it 10 hours a week till it's providing enough income to quit their job. Because this is all about strength. I'm teaching strength. I'm teaching discipline, bravery, courage. These things are all natural inside the human vessel. They've just been suppressed. They've been inhibited. They've been poisoned down. And every act of black magic in the black magic ruling manual is used against the public. And we expose those to start so people know they're getting attacked. This isn't just about getting rich and, you know, trying to lift weights at the gym. This is about exposing the processes that keep you down purposely so that the ruling group appear very powerful, but they're the weakest of the human herd. Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Biden. I mean, we're being ruled by imbeciles because they've knocked us down so far where we think this is the best we can get or this is the best we deserve. They've screwed up the natural function of the whole human body and the human nervous system, the spiritual system, the etheric system. We teach people to gain their power back, and it takes time. It might take you a full year to quit your addictions. It might take a full year. It took me 2.5 years to quit alcohol, but I got there. And, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. At least start to learn how they tricked you to poison yourself because they want you an easily controlled slave. At least get some rage energy into the equation.
And you also teach people about sort of weight loss because you talked about, oh, they can lose like 8 pounds or something, which is probably the equivalent of 4 kilos in European standards. But I mean, if you need to lose like 50 pounds, which is like 25 kilos or 15 or something, I mean, you need to lose it because it's important for you in terms of health.
You're absolutely right. It's just basically a lot of people have when you try to go against your programming with willpower, the programming will always win. Your programming is like an 800-pound gorilla. If it feels safer overweight because you live in an overweight tribe, everybody at work is overweight, you being healthy would put you in the minority. That would be dangerous. If you are in a poverty-stricken tribe, being wealthy is dangerous. It's a dangerous neurological position to take. So basically, you know, I don't know what the question was, but yeah, I'll teach people to lose weight, and they could even start themselves, but they might need some reprogramming. But the best book ever written is by the guy that owns that institute. His name's Paul Chek, Chek. The only book you'll ever have to read on how to be truly healthy and empowered, fitness-wise, nutrition-wise, is How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek, Chek. If you want to get started there, get started there. But understand you'll have to reprogram and trick the subconscious mind that the bigger herd is the healthy herd. And that takes a little bit of effort. If the whole society, 80% of our society is overweight. I think it's 70% are obese. or 65% are obese. So you're going to get a lot of repetitive content that this is the safe group to be in if you become wealthy and healthy and empowered and use your voice. Like every step up is a smaller and smaller group. Your nervous system will tell you, be terrified to be different. And my programming will turn that on its head. Well, you will be enthralled and thrilled to be different, and that 800-pound gorilla will drag you to the top of your life because he's programmed to do so.
And people who are not, let's say, wealthy or have a lot of money can still attend your courses and still be part of the whole thing of all that you're teaching.
Absolutely. And when people come to my programs too, sometimes we'll take an inventory, we'll take an inventory of how much they're investing in time and money killing themselves. Like the last guy I did this with, he was spending $350 a month on marijuana and alcohol and takeout food that was making him overweight and destroying him. And he's like, oh, I don't have any money. I'm like, well, I understand, because your budget for killing yourself is $350 a month. Your budget for becoming amazing is zero. So where do you think this is going to go long term? And a real adult thinks long term, a child thinks short term. So we go at this from many different angles and say, you don't need any extra money. You just got to take the budget from your budget for destroying yourself, using your face as a garbage compactor. Let's just stop that and put it over into the awesome budget. Why don't we do that?
Do you also talk about, well, demonic or occultic jinn possession that could actually feed on your anxiety, angst, your addictions, this addiction demon, that they will like go into a body, right, and feed on whatever you have that is low vibrational. I mean, it's the power of occult magic that leads you, what they're using, this cult, Satanism, satanic rituals, low vibrational energy, energetic manipulation, the world upside down strategy, Hegelian dialectic, divide and conquer, splitting, all of that. I mean, they use.
Yeah, we talk about it.
Say
Absolutely. It. We talk about all that, Lucas, all of that. We talk about the energetic effect, but also the energetic effect into spiritual immunity, force field, immunity from possession. And that's what healthy food does. I mean, McDonald's going to leave you open for dark behavior, whether it comes from chemical changes in your body or whether it's spiritual possession. My group doesn't care. But we know that people who eat junk, use their face as a battering ram, they have dark behavior. So we talk about the frequency changes between healthy and empowered individuals, people that are poisoned, and we recognize the behavior traits in both.
In order to get rid of those toxic demons in one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, the toxic demons, it's just like me. Once I got healthy, they left because they have nowhere to attach. The frequency is too high for them to hang around. Absolutely. I don't have any darker demonic behaviors anymore. No fighting, but I can fight. But I don't. There's no. If there's a reason to fight, I will from a strong male point of view, but I don't start them because I'm driven around by a demon who likes to cause trouble. That's the big difference in the lifestyle.
How would you describe masculinity? That's what I also kind of asked before, and also the importance of male bonding.
I think male bonding is important as long as you're bonding with a positive role model that's going to give you good repetition. Like if you don't have good repetitive, you'll always mirror the content of your environment. So even if you have to set up a fake environment on the screen, the subconscious doesn't know the difference. So I used to have to make a strong male group. I'd have Paul Chek from the Institute. I'd have like Troy K. These aren't people you're going to know. I just have a strong group of males, and I'd have to do it on the screen to start and give my subconscious mind pathway the repetitive content there. But again, to being a strong male, just knowing why you're here. You're here as a guardian of the earth. You're here as a protector of the weak and the innocent, female, children, seniors, disabled, and anybody too weak or not innocent to defend themselves. And we are willing to give our lives at any point if it saves a child from harm, not from any harms, not from finishing last in a race like they tell us today. Like if someone finishes last in a race in high school today, they get a participation ribbon because they want to steal the pain from that person to make sure they never mature. If it's unnecessary pain or excessive pain, or a pain that's has a vibration of evil, a real male will step between evil and the innocent at any time, knowing that we'll come back eventually, and there's rewards for that sort of thing inside the universal casino. And the punishment is living as a disempowered male, sitting around not knowing your worth, not knowing your potential, not knowing why you're here. And then, you get sucked into working these meaningless and futile jobs for different people, making other people's dreams come true, or making the government's dreams come true, which is the group that we're talking about all the time. So these are very important laws to live by as a male, and you're there to be a strong leader. Strong leaders don't do coke. Strong leaders don't disempower themselves even by one molecule with poison. Sure, they might spray some poison out of the planes. I might breathe that in, but that's not me volunteering and participating in my own poisoning. There's a big difference there.
But a lot of males are kind of, controlling each other or indoctrinating each other. And a lot of males are not doing the good deed. They're actually indoctrinating other males in a bad way, and there's a lot of mockery, and also people. It's been interesting in the last 4 years to see how many men would actually mock other men, and women, of course, that were awakened to what is going on in the world and what is happening, and calling people really, really bad names. I mean, that is doesn't seem to, be a great example of a masculine core, huh?
Yeah, and that weak male or weak female, see, that's the thing about mind control, is that the subconscious of the male that was making fun of the awakened folks, the subconscious already said to that weak male, you're weak. You can't protect yourself. Please side with the bully. So when the weak male was calling someone who didn't want to take the thing a name, all he was doing was exposing his weakness to the point where he has to side with the bully, the tyrant, and physically declare to the tyrant, I'm with you, I'm against them. Watch me attack them for you, because I'm so weak, I can't defend myself. So can you put your wing or your apron over me, because I'm an infant? This is the anti-male role modeling that we have to call out, mock, and shame, because a real man will never side with a bully, will never side with a tyrant. His job is to face the tyrant. And basically what I used to do in the schoolyard when I was a kid, knock the tyrant's teeth right out when that tyrant starts shaking everybody down for their lunch money. It takes one man to knock that bully to the ground, knock him out cold. That bully will never bully again, because he knows now he's weak. And I stole, when I would beat up the bully, I would steal the bully's energy and use it for good. You'll notice that the bully that was beat up in the schoolyard for doing evil never has the power or the strength again. And because energy can be neither created nor destroyed, where did it go? I took it. And then I'll use it for good while he was using it for evil. There's a lot of things going on in the invisible when you face a bully and face down a bully. Even if I got my teeth knocked out, which was sometimes common, you still have to stand against the evil no matter what, and take a couple shots at the evil to weaken its defenses for maybe the next male to get the shot in.
But can you not do that without violence or advocating that or punching somebody's teeth out?
I advocate violence in any situation of injustice. Absolutely. If diplomacy fails, absolutely. If you're going to come at the innocent, you are going to get it. And we got to get back to that, where absolutely this is part of this programming that a male like me when I was in my 30s or 20s, fighting for no reason, that's the male we don't like. But if someone slapped their girlfriend outside the bar and in front of me, that male's going to get his teeth knocked out with no diplomacy, because that's offside immediately. You're breaking the male code. You can't put a hand on a female, no matter what she did to start. If she started, probably didn't even start it. But this is where we got to go. We've lost the male code. And the reason most men don't want to fight is they don't know how. Like the same reason they don't know how to open a business. Oh, I don't want a business. I like a job. Well, maybe if you knew how to do both, you could pick what you really liked. But of course, if you only know how to sit there, or you only know how to do a job, of course, you'll be magnetically attracted there. Take the males, teach them how to fight, and the diplomacy will always be there. The greatest fighters in the world will say when they were unskilled at fighting, that's where they would get in a lot of bar brawls. And then after, they're so confident in their abilities, the diplomacy just flows from them. They never fight again because they're confident if something happens, they can handle themselves.
That's a controversial topic, but very interesting.
You got to know both sides of it before you decide, like, if you're going to stand up or stand down. Most people choose to stand down and say, oh, it's the great, it's the peaceful path, but it's because they don't know how to fight. So I would rather take a fighter's opinion on when to stand down and where to stand up, as opposed to someone who's stood down their entire life, because they don't have a point of reference to give the talk. And that's no insult to someone who doesn't know how to fight. Of course, anything...
Who doesn't want to fight, Jason? That's another thing.
They might not want to fight, but trust me, if you're, if there's injustice going on, this is when you might only have to fight 2 times in your life. You might want to be prepared. Like, it's like you only might need to flee from your country on a private jet that costs $25,000 because they locked you down. You best be prepared. Be prepared for the evil when it steps out hard. But you might and don't wait to train for the evil to arrive. Train for life like you're training for the Olympics. Run your life like you're running a business. You wouldn't pollute all your workers at a business. You wouldn't get them drunk every Friday night, because your business would be destroyed. Why are you doing it to yourself? This is the philosophy we teach inside my school and inside my programs. Common sense, reprogramming, and exposing all the tricks of the ruling group to make us into these people that, they work really hard at staying low, really hard at staying mediocre. I said, just change that. Stop working around the clock, destroying yourself. Start working around the clock, making yourself better. It's really important.
Talk about numbers, numerology, gematria, astrology, symbolism that can be used for good and bad. Take the number 5, for example, and maybe the number 6 or the number 9. How does that, how talk about those numbers, how they control us, and are we still influenced and controlled by ancient Egyptian numerological code systems?
We're definitely controlled by the ancient Egyptians, who were the masters of numerology, astrology, watching the stars, vibratory impacts. Of course, they were they knew how to use drugs as well, mind control, brainwashing. They knew how to use all that. The number 5, I'm always interested in, because the 5 represents the 5th element. That's what it represents, the magic or the ether. And someone's like, the 5th element, what's the first 4? Maybe everybody knows on your station, but not everybody knows. But the first 4 is what is it? Water, air, fire, and earth, I think. None of that can give life on its own. You need the 5th element. So the first four are sort of the physical. And if you want to animate the physical and give it life, you need the fifth element, which is means the invisible. And so there's a lot of honoring of the invisible. And I mean, the number 5 is, if you go to, say, Greek, it's penta. That's why it's called the penthouse, right? Penthouse, pentagram. This is the magic gram, and gram means message, right? Like Instagram. And even Instagram, if you break it down in numerology, it means the magic message. That's what it means. So this group really loves the 5. And I'll give you an example. And you got to really look for it. If you go to the Washington Monument, oddly enough, it's 555 feet tall and 55 inches. 5, right? So why did they do that? Well, because they wanted to flash the gang signs invisibly to their group and say, ha, 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 look at our Egyptian obelisk that they think is a monument in Washington, D.C. And even the Pentagon, right? Like, look at the name, right? Pentagon. And if you translate it, in reality, it means sort of the magic is gone, right? Pentagon. And it's not even a pentagon, it's an upside down pentagon, because the tip of the pentagon points due north, points south. And that always sort of encapsulated an evil spell, not really bringing in the God force, but bringing in the force from below. And of course, the mythology of the force from below, we all know where that's coming from. In the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, but it doesn't defend against anything. It's the Department of Offense. You see the dialectic, everything's the opposite, like you said, the upside down world. The Pentagon is 5 stories tall. It has 5 rings, and the inside courtyard is another pentagon, which is 5.55 acres. And in Egyptian mythology, if you go to the hieroglyphics, basically the Egyptians loved the star cluster Sirius for many reasons that we won't get into. But the hieroglyph for Sirius was basically a star. It was an obelisk, and it was an oval. And if you look at all what lines up in Washington, D.C. is the Pentagon, then the obelisk, and then the Oval Office. So everything sort of has this Egyptian order to it. And what was funny, when I was at the U.S. Senate, Senator Ron Johnson even asked me the same question I got asked last night in a couple interviews. Who are they? I didn't have time to tell him that the rulers of the area, or the rulers in general, hark back to Egypt, and a little farther. A lot of people say it actually goes into Iran and Samaria and Babylonia. But these things are, very important to be able to read some of the numbers, read some of the symbols, and just know that the monarch effect could be in place, where we could be afraid of a pentagram because for generations before, it came with the negative connotation. And by the 4th generation, it's just natural inside our DNA. This is why I think they say symbols rule the world, because I think a lot of these symbols, the eagle, whether it's the Egyptian bird of prey or whatever it was, or the Nazi eagle or the American eagle, I think they're all imprinted into our DNA if they can hold the line for 3 or 4 generations. So it's also important to educate in these areas, which I haven't majored in, but I have at least 10 articles on my website about ancient Egypt and their control over the known world at this point.
And also the symbolism of Saturn and the rings.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Saturn is all over everything. That's probably the one that you can find the most information on openly, is the Saturnian cult, or the Sabbatean cult, this inversion-based cult. And you know why people migrate over there spiritually to darkness? Again, I think it's vibratory. I think if you poison a human, make them watch death on Netflix, I think this is just a natural byproduct. The human goes dark. I really do. And I think this is why this cult that likes darkness, wants to multiply its membership, started poisoning the shit out of the food supply, pushing poison into the medicine supply. Everything's poison. Our tap water, our deodorant, the Dove soap, the Axe body spray, it's the Teflon pans. It's just wall-to-wall poison, because I think they're looking for this dark membership enrollment with all this dark behavior. And I think we're in like a spiritual tug of war. And I really think that a healthy vibration, a healthy body, not poisoning yourself is the ultimate weapon against it. I mean, poison is one of their primary weapons. How could health not be the defense against that? I think it's so obvious. People really got to bite in and do their part.
And because of all of this gematria, and they know how to bend time and space and know that numbers are everything and including that in everything, that's also another way to link the human brain and the human spirit maybe to AI, artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers, they're really interested in numbers because they're looking for the equations that run the universal casino. And then they might even want to break the universal casino. They might not even want to be here. I mean, this is the sort of demonic inverted. They don't even like living as we're living. They might even want to do like a Wreck-It Ralph. That was a movie about a guy stuck in a video game, wants to leave the video game. They might not even like living here with us or as humans or in a human form. They might just want to completely break it, similar to the Superman movie where they cast those criminals in the piece of glass that floated across the universe till it broke near Earth. I mean, a lot of stories go to that the fallen angels, they're trapped here. It's like somewhere where they don't want to be. They want to break this construct and get out to wherever they were before. And you can see it. You can see that they're possessing humans to get this stuff done. I mean, spraying stuff in the sky and everything that's going on isn't benefiting Gates and Schwab. And I mean, they're going to get just as affected as everybody else, which would leave the obvious that maybe they're not themselves. Maybe there's something.
But that was what I was going to ask. Do you think some of these people are, in fact, let's say alien, Anunnaki, reptilian shapeshifters?
I don't know if they're shapeshifters because I haven't seen a shapeshifter, but I have experienced the demonic infiltration of my own body only when I did drugs and alcohol. So I know if you can kind of keep a human on a low vibration with even toxic food and Coca-Cola. Like if you know what I know, you look at like a corner store completely different. It's like a demon, it's a demon depot. All these corner stores, I call them demon depots. I just think there's something else in Klaus Schwab. I don't think that's Klaus Schwab. I don't think that's Bill Gates. I think he got infiltrated because if you were sort of an entity that could enter a human, would you enter me or would you enter Bill Gates? I'd enter Bill Gates, right? Because I mean, let's
maybe that's
be
the
honest.
reason why a lot of them even are in this position, and also people that are higher up in the echelon of Illuminati levels, the bloodline families, and all that. What David Icke and other people have talked about being shapeshifters.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've never seen concrete evidence of. I did Kathy O'Brien, or maybe it was another satanic abuse survivor, did say that she was dealing with the royal family and they changed into costumes that were reptilian. But she said they were costumes.
Costumes. Oh, that one I've never heard. I know that David Icke famously did that Arizona Wilder interview.
Absolutely. And
that obvious, he said they were real reptilians and changed form, were totally different and much higher and bigger and all of that. If we can expect that to be real, I asked David Icke about that also when I had him on my show, because it's an important thing. I do think that Kathy O'Brien said that she once saw George W. Bush shapeshift into a reptilian, but she thought it was because of her programming mind control programming that she saw that. But it's very interesting that that was kind of what she saw, something of that
Yeah,
nature.
I would just say, I mean, I think ill health, bad health, poisons, because don't forget the Egyptians, they used to use the blue Nile lily. They used to use psilocybin. They used to use different psychoactive drugs. So poisoning people to put them under mind control. And of course, the Egyptians were into spiritual work. They didn't like to die. They didn't like this realm. They didn't like the rules of this realm. Everything was about transcending the death. They had a heavy connection with death. They focused on death way too much. So to me, given my experience, I would just say that and Gates does not look healthy. He looks like he's completely infested with parasites. He's overweight, he's bloated, and he's evil. But I don't know how far my explanation goes. All I can say is when I used to eat bad, do drugs, and drink, I was evil. If I was in the position where I was worth $50 billion, I might, given that influence, who knows what would happen.
But
I
in
just
those
think we have to
circles
get
that you
healthy here, Lucas.
Yeah, but in those circles that you're operating and you go to all these places and meet all these people and you have the means and the money, were you never lured into something? Did people never want to invite you to become like a Freemason or part of a, let's say, a higher level group of people, secret
No, I mean,
society?
I never got the invite. It'd be kind of funny if I did, but I mean, I don't even know if it works like that. And they might be able to judge. They might look at interviews and see how you sort of, if he's mentally weak. Like I'll talk about anything. Like I'll be on huge boards with the best scientists and doctors in the world, and I'll go to speak with the biggest scientists and doctors in the world. But I'll talk openly like this as well. And when you are able to do both, if there was a group assessing, they would see that nothing is off limits for me. I'm not trying to save my reputation to fit into any group. I'm not trying to save my reputation to get a couple more dollars from my internet business. I'm just going to speak regardless of any other factor and would probably discourage anybody from coming up to me and asking me to join. I would actually be a little intimidated because it means they have their eye on me. So, once they have their eye on you, it's kind of hard to scurry into the bushes, even if you say no. So I would be a little intimidated at that point, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I'm doing either.
But I think it's an important thing to address, and I think it's an important question to ask you before some of the audience will ask that question, thinking, "Wow, how can he operate like he's doing in all these circles and all that?" But that's of course very fascinating and inspirational that somebody can do that. And if anybody wants to attend your courses and take part in your program and get to know more about you and everything that you have to offer, how can they do so?
Well, they can just, again, email me info@jchristoff.com. Obviously, the website is jchristoff.com. And again, let's, everybody do their part. Learn slow. It's about progress. It's not about perfection. Do what you can, use what you have, start where you are, and just make some headway, knowing that the group attacking you, their primary weapon is poison and mind control, simply because poisoned people are easier to mind control. So if you want to step out of the system, you can't eat the system, you can't drink the system, you can't inject the system, you can't watch the system, you can't fight the system when the system's inside you. Help yourself, help the community, and allow me to help you to learn what it takes to step out little bit at a time that won't make your life uncomfortable.
Great. You're a fascinating man, and we have a lot that we could actually, well, continue to discuss. And I would love to see you back on the channel at some point later on. That would be wonderful because there's so much more to talk about. But for now, we've done 2 amazing hours. We covered a lot, and it's been a real joy to have you on Age of Truth TV, Jason Christoff.
Yeah, you're a good interviewer.
Thank you.
You didn't let me off the hook at all there.
I think the audience is going to love it. So I'm really hoping that.
The
So
best interview where there was hard question after hard question. There was nothing I could hit out of the park. So everybody will love to see that. They'll love it.
Thank you so much, Jason. And I look forward to seeing you back here again at some point. That would be great.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
And enjoy your 5-star meal.
Oh, absolutely. That's the joy I let in, Lucas. That's the joy.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you. Have a great day.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much to Jason Christoff, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. Your support is greatly appreciated and very needed. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.